Hello and welcome. Today we are diving into the world's #1 killer. And it's a fascinating story because it's one of incredible progress in some places, but a rapidly growing crisis in others. So let's get into the global story of cardiovascular disease. I want you to just look at this number for a second. 17.9 million. It's a huge figure, and it represents a staggering global reality that we're about to unpack together. That's what it is. Every single year, almost 18 million lives are cut short by cardiovascular disease, or CVD as we'll call it. That makes it, without a shadow of a doubt, the planet's single biggest killing. So what exactly are we talking about when we say CVD? Well, it's not just one thing. It's actually an umbrella term for a whole group of conditions that affect the heart and blood vessels. Things like coronary heart disease, which can cause heart attacks, and, of course, strokes. Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to get a handle on just how big this problem is. Then we'll look at how the battlefield is changing, creating this huge divide across the globe. We'll identify the key things that put people at risk. And finally, we'll talk about how we can actually start to turn the tide. All right, let's jump in. Section 1, the world's #1 killer. I really want to put the sheer scale of this into perspective for you. Just look at the size of that slice of the pie for cardiovascular diseases. It's almost a third of all deaths worldwide. To put it another way, CVD kills more people than all infectious diseases, all nutritional issues, and all injuries combined. It's massive. But here's the thing. This story isn't a static one. It's actually a story about massive societal change. It's a process that scientists have a name for, the epidemiologic transition. Now, this concept right here is really the engine that drives the whole story. As countries develop, as they industrialize and urbanize, what kills people fundamentally changes. We see a massive shift away from things like infections and famine towards these chronic, lifestyle-driven diseases like heart disease. And you can actually track this journey through 5 stages. It starts with pestilence and famine. Then you see pandemics begin to recede. And then bam, stage 3, that's when things like heart disease and stroke really take over and become the dominant cause of death. Stage 4 is where we get better at prevention and can delay these diseases. And now we're seeing this really worrying 5th stage emerge, one driven by inactivity and obesity. And this is a huge but, this transition is not happening at the same speed everywhere, not even close. And that has created this dramatic widening split in global health. It's truly a tale of two worlds. So on one side, you've got the high-income countries. They make up about 15% of the world's population, and they've seen these incredible declines in CVD death rates. But on the other side, you've got low and middle-income countries. That's where 85% of us live. And there, the burden of CVD is just exploding. This chart really shows that success story. You can see how the death rate, once you adjust for age, is way lower in high-income countries. And that's the result of decades of work. Better prevention, better treatments, you name it. But here is the critical and kind of devastating other side of the coin. While the rate might be lower, this chart shows the absolute number of people dying. And because low and middle income countries have such massive populations, and because those populations are aging, the total death toll there is just so much higher, and it continues to climb. It's an enormous public health crisis. So you have to ask, what is driving all of this? What's fueling these terrible trends? To get that, we need to zoom in and look at the specific culprits, the risk factors that are fueling this global epidemic. And really, it all starts with our behavior. As societies change and people move to cities, 3 big risk factors just take off. First, tobacco use. Second, a huge shift to unhealthy diets. We're talking more processed foods, more unhealthy fats, way more sugar. And third, a major drop in physical activity as our lives and jobs become more and more sedentary. Just to put one of those in perspective, take tobacco, 2.4 million. That's how many deaths from cardiovascular disease every year are directly linked to tobacco use. It's just a staggering toll from a single preventable behavior. Now, those behaviors, in turn, lead to real, measurable changes inside our bodies. We call them metabolic risk factors. Think of them like biological red flags, things like high cholesterol, high blood pressure, obesity, and diabetes. These are the things that directly damage our heart and blood vessels over time. And the impact of these is just stunning. Take high cholesterol. It's estimated to be a factor in over half, 56% of all cases of ischemic heart disease around the world. Just incredible. Okay, so the problem is enormous. It's global. But, and this is really important, it is not hopeless. The good news is that we already have proven effective ways to fight back and to start turning this deadly tide. Experts have laid out a really clear three-part strategy. First, you have the big picture population-wide stuff, like anti-smoking campaigns. Second, you have targeted approaches, where you find and treat people who are at high risk. And third, you need effective medical care to prevent a second heart attack or stroke in people who've already had one. And one of the most exciting ideas, especially for places without a ton of resources, is something called the poly pill. It's a really simple but brilliant concept. You combine several proven low-cost drugs, like an aspirin, a statin for cholesterol, a blood pressure med, into a single, affordable, once-a-day pill. It's a way to tackle multiple risk factors all at once. So here's the bottom line. We have the tools. We absolutely know what works. The biggest challenge is no longer about some new scientific discovery. It's about delivery. It's about figuring out how to get these low-cost, effective strategies to the 85% of the world's population that needs them the most. Which leaves us with a final and I think pretty powerful question. We have the knowledge to save millions of lives. The battle against the world's #1 killer isn't a matter of discovery anymore. It's a matter of will.